Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Tonight, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyne. We are now just hours away when the polls will open. In some ways, it's hard to believe. In other ways, thank goodness it's almost over. Let's get a last-minute look at what we can expect or should expect tomorrow, who's going to win, turnout, and more. Joining us from Charlotte, Republican strategist Andy Yates. Here in Raleigh, Democratic consultant Perry Woods. And from Washington, D.C., Rob Lockwood, a former state GOP spokesperson now working for the RNC. We call him the Dean now. If you need more on that, just Google Rob Lockwood and CNN. Good story there about that. Rob, let's start with you. What is the view from Washington, D.C. on this race right now, do you think?
Well, I think we're feeling very good about Tom Tillis's chances of being the next United States Senator. And if you look at really over the past month or two, he's had a very good cycle. He's gotten his message out in his own terms. He's run a great campaign. He was campaigning aggressively across the weekend. And you've seen new revelations come to light about Kay Hagan's tenure in Washington. She voted for the stimulus, which benefited her family. She missed crucial hearings that were classified on ISIS to go to fundraisers in New York City that benefited her campaign. Those are things that voters didn't know. Those are things that got a lot of media coverage, and voters started asking questions. And when they did, you saw her start to fall back in the polls. And then for the first time last week, you saw Speaker Tillis either take a lead in some of the public polls or be tied. And so he's really surging at the right moment, so we're feeling very good about his chances tomorrow.
Perry?
Well, Rob's very good at keeping right on the talking points, that's for sure. But the last two public polls I saw still had Kay maintaining a small but steady lead that she's had throughout the past month or so. Look, this is a turnout contest. It's going to be, I said 6 months to a year ago it was going to be a turnout contest. We all know today it's going to be a turnout contest. Both sides are talking to their base. I think most people pretty much made up their mind. I know even with my dad, he's so upset about me because he's defriended me on Facebook. So, I think pretty much people know where they are. I don't think any more sort of last-minute, attacks on Kay Hagan. I don't think that's going to move people one way or the other. I think the die is cast, and it's just to see what happens tomorrow.
Andy, you have races as well down in Mecklenburg County. What has the get-out-the-vote operation been like?
It's been a very aggressive get-out-the-vote operation, I think, from both sides, and I really think you're seeing it work on both sides. You saw an uptick in the early vote, and I think there's a lot of people energized, ready to come out tomorrow. And it's going to be, as Perry said, a razor-thin, close race. I think it could be the closest Senate race we've seen in this state since John East won by less than a point in 1980. I think you're looking at possibly a historic and late night, but I do feel like Senator Tillis has the momentum right now.
Rob, Sean Haw, the Libertarian candidate, I mean, he's in mailers from opponents. He's in TV ads from opponents. Is the feeling in D.C. that he can have an impact on this race?
No, I think that voters are very well informed. You talked about the money that's been spent in the race, or maybe it was Perry. We talked about, it's $100 million so far into the race, and people are getting to understand all of the candidates, all their positions. They understand if you want fiscal responsibility, Tom Tillis is the guy. If you want somebody who's going to vote to benefit their own family, that would be Kay Hagan. So I think that right now, like I said before, I think that Speaker Tillis is doing a great job. I think he's surging.
Well,
I actually saw
Rob, let me just add that.
They had him up 46-44, Perry.
Well, all I know is
go ahead.
The press has completely debunked the thing that Kay Hagan's family benefited from the stimulus. We know Tom Tillis benefited from anything from this toll road deal to some things with Time Warner Cable. But look, people think both sides are, pox on both of their houses. I don't think the Speaker Tillis's fiscal responsibility record in the legislature is what people are most familiar with, and they know that we're already looking at a $1.2 billion shortfall next year, that he gave a teacher pay raise to give lip service to it by using one-time money and something that he can't even pay for next year. I don't think fiscal responsibility is something he should be followed back on, quite honestly.
Andy, we saw the
hang on one second. We saw okay.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just going to say, Tim, over on that stimulus stuff, we saw a story pop over the weekend that went up late online, I think it was Saturday night, that said that issue wasn't resolved. It was a memo from Diener that said that there should be an investigation to see if there was a conflict of interest. And all of a sudden, that story has disappeared from the media. It was deleted off of multiple websites from Charlotte media outlets. So I don't think that story is resolved at all. Right. And then, Perry, to earlier, we talked about public polling. There was one out today that said we were up 46-44. So on both of those points, I think Tom Tillis has the
Perry, real quick, and I want to go to Andy.
Yeah, this election is going to be about education. And the public well knows that, Speaker Tillis has not been a friend of public education, and I think that's going to be the difference tomorrow.
Andy, we saw over 1 million early votes. Democrats have about 49%, GOP 31%. It's above 2010 levels, a little less than 2012 levels. So, I mean, what do we take from that? What do we think that means?
I think part of that is you're seeing both parties, especially the Democrats, are cannibalizing their Election Day vote. They're pushing early votes so hard that I don't think they're pushing out infrequent voters, voters who don't normally vote in midterms. I think they're just pushing people out ahead of when they would normally go vote. I still think you're probably going to see turnout maybe slightly higher than what it was in 2010. I believe 44% in 2010. Maybe we get to 46% tomorrow, which is more than I would have thought a couple months ago, but I don't think you're going to see record midterm turnout or anything like that.
Well, I can just speak to here in Wake County. And out of the 90,000 approximately early voters that we had hit about here, about a third of them didn't vote in 2010. And out of those, the Democrats are winning 2-1. There's a significant number of votes. We're about, Democrats in Wake County are about 16,000 votes ahead, raw votes ahead of where we were 4 years ago, or I mean in 2010. So I don't think it is just cannibalizing our votes. I think efforts to try to suppress vote is actually what's driving turnout in many ways. And I think that the Democrats are going to have a pretty good turnout. We're seeing it in places even like in Boone, in Asheville, in Watauga County, where they worked really hard not to have a early voting site on campus. They sued, they got an early voting site. They almost doubled what the early voting was in 2010 there. So
it's been fascinating to watch what will be the watershed county in North Carolina. It seems like every national organization has a different county in the state for what's the watershed. But Rob, from the turnout perspective, if the number is increased and it's higher than typical for a midterm, what do you think that means?
I think that we're going to win, and I think we heard the same spin from Democrats in 2010 and 2012, talking about advantages that they had going into Election Day. Both times they lost, and I think that right now, Tom Tillis, like I said before, is peaking at the right time. And I think it's hit somewhat of a silly season in North Carolina. I was reading an op-ed today in the New York Times where somebody called for suspending elections. It's the same thing that Governor Perdue talked about in 2011 when she saw the writing was on the wall ahead of time. So I think that from that perspective, I think Democrats understand what's coming. I think they understand that we have a better ground game, a more technologically advanced ground game that's been profiled by people like the Washington Post, Bloomberg, who are not exactly friends to conservatives. They've seen our efforts. They've seen the advancements we've made. And we have a formula and a blueprint on how to win in North Carolina in the past few elections, and we've done it. So we've only gotten better. I'm sure the Democrats have gotten better as well, but I'm very confident going into Election Day about where we stand to elect Tom Tillis.
Real quick, Barry.
I'm smiling.
Well,
I just the last shot at Bev Perdue, we couldn't leave her alone. But I feel very confident that Democrats are going to enjoy a great day here in Wake County tomorrow and statewide. I think they'll pick up a few legislative seats, and I think Kay Hagan's going to end up being victorious.
Andy, predictions?
I think you're going to see Tillis win in a very close race. I think it's going to be something like Tillis 48.5, Hagan 47, and the rest going to the Libertarian. I think it's going to be very close, but honestly, I think you could have an election 5 days this week and get 5 different results. That's how close it's going to be. And I feel like you're going to see pretty much status quo. The Democrats probably will pick up a couple seats in the State House, a couple seats in the State Senate just because we have so many. But I think you're going to see a very status quo election.
Well, let's just
on
hope
the state legislative level.
Let's just
Tim,
hope
you got it 2-1.
Let's just hope we have results by the end of tomorrow night. We know who won these races, right? Good to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Always,
a lot of hard work, I know, went